guys, welcome back. We're on week 6 now of the lockdown lessons. Last week we looked at the chord tones. We looked at the chord tones of the major scale, a minor scale, and a dominant 7 scale as well. So we didn't go into the scales as such. That doesn't mean that that's not something that you shouldn't do in your own time. There's loads of resources online. Go and look into this stuff a bit further. But just for the benefit of this short course, we just looked at the chord tones. And that's the main notes within a scale that spell out a chord. If we were going to play a few notes from a scale to make it sound like a chord, we would choose those notes. And they're the most important notes when building a bass line, I guess. And especially when it comes to walking bass lines and things, we want to be able to accent those chord tones in our walking bass lines to help give the shape to the song and to the chord progression as the soloist or the singer is on the top. And today we're going to go a little bit further and look at walking bass lines. And more specifically, we're going to look at the 12-bar blues, and that is going to feature the dominant 7 chord tones. So we'll go back to that dominant 7 shape, and we're going to play the chord tones from that we looked at last week, and that's the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th. Of course, we've got the octave as well. And today we're going to add in the 6th note. The dominant 7 scale is just the same as the major scale, except it's got a flat 7, as we spoke about last week. So the 6th note is an E, which is the 2nd fret on the D string. So we're going to add that into our series of chord tones, and we're going to go 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and back down. So that's 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. So once you've got your fingers around that, you'll be able to start hearing. I'm sure that's a sound that you've all heard before, probably, if you've listened to much music. And that is the sound of a walking bass line from a 12-bar blues, from rock and roll numbers. And a really important part of bass playing. If you're going to go to a jam session, you'd hear that. You'd be expected to play a 12-bar blues. So those are the notes within that 12-bar blues, or some of the notes that we can use in that 12-bar blues. That is what I would consider to be the core of our 12-bar blues. And we can start adding lots of different notes in and different flavours in on top, but that's the mother road, as they would call it. That's our Route 66. It's that progression. And the great thing is, in a 12-bar blues, we can move that around the chords. So if we're looking at a 12-bar blues, we're going to be playing a 1, 4, 5. We're going to play the 1st chord, the 4th chord, and the 5th chord. And rather than thinking about them as chords at the minute, we'll just look at them as the notes within the G7 scale. So it's G, C, D, and G. It's the 1st, the 4th, the 5th. And on each of those chords, it's going to be a dominant 7. So we'll be able to play a G dominant 7, a C dominant 7. So you move up to the C and it's exactly the same. And the D, we go up and it's same hand position, same shape. We just move our hand up. Okay, so that's all of the notes that we need to get through a 12-bar blues. Now, the reason it's called the 12-bar blues, you've guessed it, it's made up of 12 bars. So we're going to play the G for 4 bars to start. We're going to play the C for 2 bars, the G for 2 bars. We're going to play the D for 1 bar, the C for 1 bar, the G for 1 bar, and then back to the D for 1 bar. We'll play through the 12 bar now with that progression, and I'll just count the bars just to give you an idea of how it's going to feel. When we play 1 bar on the D, we can only go up the scale. We don't have enough space to go up and down. Let's play it twice the speed, but we're not going to. So it would just go D, and then down to the C. So let's walk through that and I'll count the bars out. So we're going to go G for 4 bars, and it's going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2. Up to the D this time for 1 bar. C for 1 bar, G for 1 bar, and D for 1 bar. And that's what we're going to be looking at for our 12-bar blues to start. Once you feel confident about that and that structure, we're going to look at how we can start building on that basic platform, because that's what that is. It's just a platform. So like if we were going to go a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Rather than just playing it really ploddy note for note, we can start throwing in a little. Okay, so there I was kind of throwing in a few pushes and just giving it a bit of swagger, I guess is what it would be best described as. I was also using a few chromatic ideas. So it was maybe the first week, maybe the second week, we looked at some chromatic exercises. Well, you probably thought at the time that was just a finger exercise, which I hope that it was a good one. But there's loads of things that we can do with that chromatic style, especially in walking bass lines. So one cool thing about the chromatic idea is that I can play the note above or below the next chord that I'm going into. So if I was playing in G, okay, so there I just went, I'm coming back down the scale. I played that note just above the C. So that was the one above the G there. On the G, we could play all chromatic. So if we're going to go up, we could go a G, and then I'll maybe go to the third. So all I did there was go up the G, like normal, but then when I got to there, that was that chromatic thing we looked at. So we can go, and then back down the scale, up. So there all I did was go from the G, and I played, with the feel that I knew that I had 3 notes to get to the C. So I just played the 3 notes leading up to C, which was the A, the B flat, the B, and the C. So just look at that first little section. So in the G, I went up chromatically, and down the scale, up from the A, and then all of a sudden I'm in the next chord. And then on the C I could do chromatic again. So then I went up to the 5th of the C, and then just back down the scale to get back to the G. So from the start we could go G, it was G, up chromatically, down the scale, up to the C, okay, or in the C, just play the normal walking bass line, which works too. And there I'm just giving it a little bit of a skip, a little bit of a swagger. Okay, so that would be if our rhythm section is kind of doing that shuffly kind of feel. So our pulses. Okay, so when we get back to that G, we can do a chromatic up to the D again. So I just went up the scale, back to the G, chromatic up to the D. So when I got to the C there, we can go up the D normally. From the C, I can do a chromatic line leading up to the G. Okay, chromatic back up to the D then, and back up to the G. Then we're back to the beginning of the 12 bar. So I'll just play around the 12 bar and give you a couple examples of all those things put in. So if we're gonna go a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so all we need to know to make all of that happen is the chord tones, navigating them, making sure that we're getting to them, making sure that we're hitting the roots on the 1, and using the chromatics up and down. They don't need to be the full chromatics, we could just go. So that was just going G, 1 note above the C, and then onto the C. Just these little steps that can just add so much flavour to our walking bass lines, and it's all about giving the person that's soloing or the singer on top just some nice flavours to work around, and we've got to support them firstly, but we can kind of influence them and give them something exciting to play off of, because if what we're doing underneath is fun and energetic and without getting in the way, then that's just going to bring the best out in them, and I guess that's all that we're ever looking for in music is bringing the best out in each other. So the the walking bass line thing's great, and you can play around with it in so many different variations, different feels. We've just looked at the 1-4-5. If you were gonna go into more jazz stuff, you know, there's loads of different variations of it. There's 2-5-1s and various other things, and being able to map your way around the chord tones like that and using the chromatic stuff, it's a great way to build not just our knowledge of the bass and the fretboard of the bass, but also of music and different sounds. And you know, it's a never-ending journey of exploration. So hope you guys have fun on your own journeys, and we'll be back next week with some more lockdown bass lessons. So have a good one, enjoy the nice weather, and stay safe.